she called in directly. Well, that's why I can't come. Oh, that's why. You know what? If I can get Michael's number, I can conference him in.
Okay, do you want me to do something differently? Do you want me to call in differently?
No, just give me his number and I'll call him.
Okay. Does he need to be in on this training? Or did he just want to be?
No, not really. Cause
I would guess this would be.
not really.
I would guess this would be boring for him, but but what do I know? Okay. Get my course up here right quick. So this is the dashboard that a teacher would see, and when we start our training, we start from the house, and the teacher's dashboard displays content that teachers or that students have turned in. And oh, where did it go here? Are you getting a delay there?
A little bit. We are currently seeing
there we go. Okay.
Page is changing. Okay.
So this is a teacher's dashboard, and student work that's come in populates here on the left-hand side. And these icons are things that are consistent throughout the course, and so I'll go through and show how to grade those. But this is where student work populates that needs to be graded. Up here on the top, the house takes you to your dashboard. The hat lists all of the courses in which you are enrolled, regardless of your permissions. So this happens to have a lot just because I have a lot of different functions with IDLA, but these are all the courses that I'm enrolled in as a user. I think you guys have the administrative gear, if I'm not mistaken, and so those icons across the top, that's what those are. From the dashboard into the middle screen here, this is your summary. This is your at-a-glance indicators that show how quickly teachers are grading work and student performance in the course, how fast how everybody is on pace and meeting deadlines. So this at-a-glance summary, you can change these, and we'll do this tomorrow, but you can change these so that these thresholds so that they reflect what you need in your district. So if it's 70% and you want it to show green at 70%, then you can set it to be that way. The course pane here shows all of the courses I'm enrolled in as a teacher. And when I talk about our naming, our nomenclature strategy, this will have a little bit more meaning to you. But these are courses that that I'm enrolled in as a teacher. Across the bottom, you'll see the hot links. This will take me to the student view of this course. This takes us to the edit course mode, which we will be working in today. This takes you to your grade book and your objectives. So we'll be entering in here in these links. So I have to ask, did Michael make copies of courses for you today up underneath your hat? What do you have up underneath your hat?
Yeah, he did it in our technical training this afternoon.
Okay. So you should have some. You should have some that say Master in Development, and then you should have some down here that say Enroll. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll mainly use the Enroll one tomorrow when we do our course settings and enroll students in our grade book, but for now we'll probably just be working in the template, the development template. On the right hand side of the screen is your critical student list, and again, you can set these thresholds so that they reflect whatever you need for your district, but you can email a student as long as they have an email entered in Brain Honey. You can email them right from your dashboard, and again you can see some of the criteria. For example, this one is set for at least 2 of the last 5 scores are below passing, and this one says has many late assignments. So this can give you at a glance indicators of kids who maybe need some follow-up or are on pace. So this will populate on the right-hand side of your screen. So far, so good?
What's the indicator with West Hall? The rightmost indicator looks like an exclamation mark or something?
Has late assignments, and then this one has many late assignments.
Okay.
And
the same as sorry, this was the same as the because we looked at the dashboard with Michael at risk. Is that what it's considered?
yes. Yes. Okay, so the next thing that we do in the training is we show teachers how to change their personal information. So this will be hands-on for you. If you will click next to your name at the top, you'll see a drop-down arrow. Did he already show you this?
Let me private browser here.
Peter is busily typing away trying to run two different things on one machine because he's using it for the display of the session and also for his getting into the course.
Oh, okay.
He's now logging in and he's just about the right point to mess things up.
Awesome. We'll all be on the same page then. No, is it beneficial for me just to keep moving, or do you not want to do hands-on? I wasn't sure what you had for your own computers there. So if you're just viewing, I can move on because we're recording
Yeah,
this.
just go for it. Yeah, you can show us what you were doing here and then just, keep going on there.
Okay. So we have them change their personal information and they click on that link and it takes them into this view. And here we have them change their picture, so they can add a picture if they want. And we change their password. And they confirm it. And you can also have kids set security questions. We usually don't have teachers do these, but we just have them change their password.
And is this option accessible? Is this accessible for all roles or for just a few roles? Or can you customize what can be changed, what can be changed?
I didn't hear the first part of the question. I guess I should have you repeat that. Do you want me to go back in there?
Yeah, so my question was, like, for different roles, like a student role versus a teacher role, are there certain elements on this page that are accessible versus not accessible? Like, are all students allowed to change their password and do all kinds of things?
There aren't special situations there. No, they can all change it from there.
Okay, thanks.
Lots of times, if a student, can't get in there, you'll have to go in as the admin, change their password so that they can get into the domain, and then they can change their password from in there. But they can't change their password from out if they can't get into the domain.
Sure.
So you'll have to give them that. Okay, so that's the personal information. And then we usually have them log out and log back in with their new password. I don't know. Did we give you guys the professional development the Blended Learning 101 course?
Let me check here.
It's our online piece that we offer. The face-to-face training is this, and then.
Good. So we have actually three. We've got PD administration, PD blended, and in development.
Okay, perfect. So let's take just a minute and I'll walk you through the PD Blended Learning 101. And again, this is our online piece. Some districts require their teachers to finish this. We don't have control over that, but we do encourage that in our strategic planning that they do, because blended learning is a shift in pedagogy. It's a shift in philosophy, and it's a skill set. So we really encourage teachers to work their way through this. They can also take this for credit, and they enroll through a university here in Idaho, and they complete the the steps. They complete a module. They build their content in a module. I review that for the teachers across the state, and then we grant credit for that. So they can take this for credit. But you can, and we're looking at this from this view here, the student view, and you can see the modules, and it just talks about introducing blended learning, the blended models, and there's a lot of interactivity in here. She's used Vokies and videos and things like that to make that an engaging and interactive course. Goes through the approach for developing a blended course and gives a lot of samples. Talks about course design, mapping out a blended course, and so it's a really what I think is a robust course for teaching teachers to be blended deliverers. There's a final product, and then we give them the resources. And the resources, I think that you have access to some of those, but in this resource folder, this has our knowledge base that Michael has built, and it's the Google site that has the how-to articles and the videos. Actually, that's not displaying the way I wanted it to, but maybe they changed something. Sometimes they change stuff and they don't tell me, you know.
It's always a surprise.
Yeah, my job's always a surprise. They keep saying that they can't, that some of the information doesn't make it uphill in this part of the state. That's what they tell me. I know, I take a beating for where I live. There's our iDig learning object, our content repository, and these are our pieces of content. All of these courses have pieces of content that are searchable, and teachers can pull into their courses as they're building. And then we also have the site that takes them to our learning, or our full courses, where they can log in. And I don't know if you guys are building one, and I don't remember what we decided in our meeting, but this is where teachers can log in, look at full courses that are available to them, and then their domain admin can copy those courses into, and then the teachers can modify those. But all of that stuff is built right into our Blended Learning 101 course. I gotta see what Nikki wants here. Oh, okay. Let's see what else in here, what I want to show you. There's a tutorial in here for differentiating instruction, and let me see that if I can find this. And it's a really good one for showing how to do the settings for doing pre-testing and differentiating instruction, building content paths for students so that they can test out of certain content areas. And so that is right there, formative assessments, credit recovery. So that's a really good resource in there. And so if we gave you this course, then you should have access to all this information.
Cool.
Do you have questions on the PD 101?
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's go into our edit course view then. The edit course view takes us into our course outline, or our syllabus. When we copy a course for a district, or when we give them their master copy, this is the template we're talking about, this standard template. Ordinarily in an LMS this would be blank, but we have built content into our templates so that every teacher who gets a copy of one of our courses gets this standard content. So at the top we have, on the left hand side, this is where we have our objectives. And I'll show you about editing and importing objectives. The middle part is the syllabus, or the schedule, and then we have some tabs up here that we'll be operating in today and tomorrow. And we have our course settings over here, where you can change your grade book, you can change the name of the course, and we'll go through all of this. I'm just doing a quick preview. And then on the right hand side, this is what I tell teachers is their digital file cabinet. This is their own repository of their own resources that they can bring in for building their course. Okay, so on the objective side, if you click edit, or if we watch me click edit, you can add objectives several different ways. You can add them one at a time. So if I go like this, I can type it down here, and I can say right after I type. So I can add it one at a time and click OK. Or I can import objectives, or I can import them from a file. And teachers don't normally import from a file, but if they do, they use a comma separated value or tab delimited format. I see this sometimes in business courses where there aren't state standards built, and I also see it in teachers who are developing professional development courses. So these are their homemade objectives. Most commonly, we use import objectives from this button. So in Idaho, we can import the Idaho state standards. We can import Idaho core standards or professional technical. And so if I click on this, and I happen to know that for grade 10, for language arts, we have those. And you can pick the subject area in here, but if you'll notice the little plus marks next to these, you can click on the plus marks and it really drills down to the specific objective. So I'll give you a second to look at those.
So the level of detail in terms of the drill down for these objectives, was that reflected back in the comma separated file and then uploaded?
I've never seen it that way, so I can't answer that. I'll just jot it.
We'll have to put them in.
Oh, okay, because I think Brain Honey had it built in, like with theirs it was built in, Idaho's was built in.
Right.
Like before, like if I go set up, because I set up a Brain Honey account through Brain Honey, and I could pick Minnesota and everything was already there.
Yeah, they may just turn that on, just like they turn it into actual words. Maybe it's a subscription.
Okay.
But he asked about the comma separated value, and I don't know that it drills down for that, but I just jotted it down, and that's something I can ask Nikki. I've always just had teachers build real general ones when they brought them in for comma separated, and so I don't know that they drill down, but I'll answer that question for you. Okay.
The other question was, and maybe we had thought about it, is maybe at the Agilix level, there are already, in our case, Michigan standards that we don't see.
I see.
Because,
yeah.
We're obviously a supplement of you all that see what you see. And I think it's a matter of trying to figure out how to get that pushed down to our level.
Yeah,
Sure.
we could get those free or for a few $1,000. Very worthwhile.
Bring.
We'll work with Michael or somebody to figure out if that's accessible, if that exists, and how we can get that pushed out to us.
It doesn't matter. We just adopt the Minnesota standards.
Well, I don't know.
I said you can go to Brain. A teacher can set one up for free in Brain Honey, of course. So I just went through Brain Honey, not through IDLA.
We had to find it if they're there.
Yeah. Minnesota's right there.
Minnesota's were there in the free version.
Yeah,
Did they drill down like this?
I think so. Because I think I just kind of played around a little bit, and yeah, and I thought
Cool.
it did.
So they must have it for other states.
Just thinking they might have all the states out there. You have to, when they set your account up, I suppose they.
I would hope so, but
Cool.
Okay, so how's the pace? Am I going too quickly? Don't be shy. Okay. So once I click OK, it's going to bring this up to this page, and I can still make changes here. I can click on one and delete it, and then I just click yes, or I can click Shift and select multiple ones and delete those. So you can refine your standards from this screen, but once you click OK, this will import them into the left-hand side over here. Oh, whoops. I should probably be in the right course. Hang on a second. Bonneville might not be all that tickled with me. They probably wouldn't even notice. Let me scroll down here and get my training one. I keep trying to tell IDLA that with a class list this long, maybe they should cut back on my workload, but they're not listening. They're not hearing me. Let me find here. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to import objectives in here right quick. So they'll populate here, and if they don't populate, you just click on the drop-down box. Sometimes they'll come up as uncategorized, but you just click on the content area that you just loaded, and they'll load here. So this brings up all of my state standards that I already had in there, and then my Common Core over here. So from this point, you can drag objectives into the modular level. So for example, I can go like this. Oh, that one's already over there. Go like this and drag them in. And then at the very end of the training, we drag them from the modular level into the assignment level after we've built some content. So from a course development standpoint, we always start with our objectives. And we tell teachers to start with their objectives. So they import these. And the ease with which they can import is a big draw to them. And so then they align them at the modular level, and then we take them in after we build content and we put them in at the assignment level. There are also some other features and areas in Brain Honey where you can refine your standards, and I'll show you those as we go along. All right, those are our objectives.
Question.
Sure.
What's your experience in training teachers, and what I'm wondering about in particular, as you were saying that, is how much the teacher professional development is conducted real time, either webinar form like this or face to face, or is it a small dose of face-to-face or webinar, and then the teacher goes off and does a lot on their own? What modality works? And I'm particularly wondering how many of the teachers get completely lost, I mean, to me, this looks straightforward, and they ought to be able to figure it out. And yet, I know for a lot of them that have never gotten near a computer, they're going to get scared to death pretty quickly.
Right.
What's the experience?
No,
What do you do?
that's a good question, and I have about 3 answers for you. When I came on board last year, we trained in a way that we had a big chunk of information, 3 hours, and then we left the building. And my master's is in adult education and distance learning, and I didn't even need a master's to figure out that we really needed to chunk it differently because teachers were overwhelmed. And so we did make a change. Now we do a 2-hour stretch where we do face-to-face, and then we stay in the building and we help them practice those skills and start developing their content and working their way through part of the PD 101. So we offer that follow-up support now, which is crucial. We also found this out in the research project that we just conducted with INACOL and NNU from Southern Idaho told us this exact thing, that it was a lot of information. So we do chunk it differently, and smaller chunks, we go at a slower pace, and we do a lot more hand-holding and follow-up. You know, if I had to guess a percentage, I would guess about maybe 40% of the teachers can just take off on their own and they just go great guns. But there's that big percentage who are going, you know, this is a big shift for me. This is a different way for me to teach. And so I spend a lot of time one-on-one with teachers and literally hand-holding and walking them through that. But once they start developing, and once the skills start getting repetitive, then they take off on their own and they work independently. This PD 101 part is a review for the most part of what we cover in our face-to-face trainings, but then it does go more into more detail in terms of actually delivering your course in a blended format. You know, we show them the models and we show them how it can look. And we have anecdotals, you know, videos and things from teachers using it. But the PD 101 course has a lot more of the pedagogy and a lot more of that delivery of blended than we teach face-to-face. So total time of training time, they still get 6 hours of training time with us, plus about 4 to 5 hours of follow-up, sit with them, help them troubleshoot, help them solve some problems. So we do more face-to-face time than we used to. And that is something that I would recommend to anybody starting this program, is to structure it so that you are there as a support and that they have quick access to answers for their questions as they start this on their own. Does that answer? There were 3 different parts to that question, so.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. You bet. All right. So, and also keep in mind too that if I'm training somebody, they're working on their computer and they're doing these skills as we go along. And I always joke with them that my trainings are no teacher left behind, because I do circulate in the room, and I know Nikki does, but I just make sure that everybody's on the same page. And so whoever is training, whoever is delivering this, that's important to just not fly through it and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Stop frequently. I'm delivering this differently to you. I wasn't sure if you guys were doing this hands-on or if you were just viewing this. So does that make sense? That when teachers have their own computers, we have a different pace.
Yes.
Okay.
I got a question. This may be
Sure.
jumping the gun. Sorry, Teresa, this is Jason.
Sure.
We saw in the past where over to the right where you got all your resources, you click on something that actually shows how to FTP and put stuff back into the resources area. Remind me how to do that. Is it just one of those tabs next to where it says course files?
You click add, but you can bring them in this way, but you can also open them here, and I'll show you this too. You also can open them here and just drag them in. And you can drag in folders as long as you don't have folders within folders.
Oh, so it does that full drag it up. Well, it didn't look like that window, but I remember at the bottom it had the actual FTP address that you could go directly to that from the back end.
That was on the gear page. Multiple. But
Okay. I gotcha. All right, thank you.
Okay. I was going to say I have one up there on the screen for you too.
Yep.
Okay. And we don't teach teachers to do that. We tell them, admin can do that too, but for the most of the teachers, they're either dragging it in or bringing folders in or zipping or adding from here, just uploading. Okay, so.
Another question, I'm sorry. So if they're adding, like on your right side right now, you've got a folder called header templates, and there are multiple files in there. Can that be brought in as a zip folder and then it unpacks itself?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So Brain knows that it's zip and it just unpacks.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So I need to go figure out where we were. Okay. So I go through the modules with the teachers and I give them this vocabulary that these are modules and that we're building content in the modules. But this is also the template that they get. And this is a practice one because I do a lot of practice and development with them, so you'll see some different modules. But I have them add a practice module, and once we click add, I explain to them that these folders, lessons, and modules aren't tied to the grade book, but they're big organizers. And so we talk a lot about the structure of a course and how you want that to look and how you want it to be organized. So we start with creating a module. On the right-hand side, you can make it so that this module is not visible to students, but still visible to the teachers. And you can also tie in objectives and decide where you want to place it. I'm going to leave it alone for now. Click Done, and there's a module. One thing that we point out in our template is the sample, the example module that we give them, and we tell them do not delete, because in here not only does it have all the header templates, but it also has the structure of an example unit, and this is based on best practice for online delivery, that every unit has a teacher-only folder, an introduction, a unit checklist, and you don't have to have a pre-test, but this is the basic structure we ask our teachers to follow. And they don't follow it always, but that's just something that we tell them that that's a best practice. So I'm going to close out of here. So up in this one, where we have our, where did I put you guys? Right there. So I'd have you add some folders. And I usually just tell the teachers in the training that they have to, that we're going to create a module that looks just like this. So we create folders, and then we start building some content that goes in the folders.
This is Greg. I've got a couple of questions about, it relates both to professional development and also to teamwork. It looks to me as though there's quite a bit of flexibility in doing the professional development as to what you might preload as a course for a teacher to practice with. Just double checking that hypothesis that there is quite a bit possible is true. What's less clear to me is if several teachers want to work together on an actual course, or there's a development team with someone who lays out the objectives, and then people split up who does which part of the course. Does Brain Honey take into account things like blocking so that two people can't be changing the same thing at the same time in a race condition? Does Brain Honey have ways to facilitate people working together on a course?
Well, we have a lot of, I don't know what mechanisms are in Brain Honey necessarily, but we do have a lot of teacher collaboration on a course, and we give them the same course and their course developer privileges. And so a lot of the collaboration, for example, in the Coeur d'Alene School District, we did this last year with world history. There were 5 world history teachers, and they met in the same room. We put the course up on the wall. They decided what they wanted their master course to look like, you know, which units everybody was going to cover. So they built their modules and had their different time periods and, you know, however they wanted to structure that. So they built that in one template. Then each of them took a section, and so I think one of the groups was in charge of coming up with interactivities, and so they built some, they pulled some in from our resources, but that was their job to, you know, when they found that time period, they thought, okay, what's a cool way to make this interactive? We could do a game, a crossword puzzle, some sort of manipulative narrated slide or narrated PowerPoint, whatever it was. So that was their job. Another teacher or another team of teachers decided they were going to go in and do all of the introductory work for each of the modules. So they went in, they built the content, and just added that. So they had specific duties, so they weren't stepping on each other and creating, you know, erasing or whatever. But then once that course was built, once that master course was built, we made them each their own copies, and that's the enroll copy. So they got their own copies of this course in which they could make some of their own little changes, excuse me, make them their own, you know, put in their own personal touches, but the basic content, the basic structure was the same as everybody else. This also can tie into the Smarter Balance in that you could have an assessment that is the same, you know, for all the teachers, and they have the same content, and yet they still have the power within that course copy, their own enroll copy. They still have the power to differentiate for their own students. They can do their own grouping. They can modify assignments. So there's a lot of flexibility, but they built that one master course so that all of that structure was the same and had unified content, but then had individual copies of that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, like I said, I don't know in Brain Honey if if there's something in there that doesn't allow, not that I know of, I think you could probably go in there and be creating something at the same time and step on somebody else's development. But the way that we have set it up is that teachers just have they each have their own roles in that development process. Okay, so I made a teacher-only folder in here following the best practice, and I made it not available to the students, and so we show them how to make it not available. And then we have them bring in a unit checklist, and so I don't know if Michael alluded to this or what, but when you have a document in a resource in Brain Honey, if it's just a document file, once you bring that in, if I were to drag this in, and I preview that, if it's just a document, it just shows up as a link. So if a teacher is going to use just a document, we recommend they have a header and directions for that. It's not best practice to just have a link. However, if I bring a PDF in, I guess I could have done the same one. If I bring in a PDF and I preview it, then of course it displays in the just like a picture. So we spend a little bit of time differentiating between documents and PDFs and having them practice saving a document in their own computers. And
then just to confirm, when they click on the link for the first document, it downloads the document.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we go in and even a lot of the teachers have to go in and do the file save as and find the find the extension, save it as a PDF, save it as a document, and then once they have those, then they can drag them. Let me do this right quick for you. There's the blended. Then I can drag it in and it's downloading. Oh, that was kind of a big file. I guess maybe I shouldn't have done that. And then try to pay attention to what I'm dragging in there. And then we drag in a document, and again, you can drag in whole folders as long as you don't have a folder within a folder. And we teach them to get their resources in. Oh, I can't believe I did that. I don't even know how to stop it. Oh well, we'll just get the Evergreen Education Group Keeping Pace with K-12 Online and Blended Learning PDF today.
Everybody needs to read it.
Everybody should have that. Yeah, I'm going to test you on it. There's going to be a quiz on it tomorrow. Okay, so the next part that we show them is how to do the headers, and I really can't get out of this. Yeah, I did. Maybe somebody could sing a song, right? No, our next little strategy is to go into that part of the template where we give the teachers the headers, and the headers are just they're just HTML, and they're linked to the course, and so we just teach them how to use those headers and build editable content, and then I show them what that looks like, and I'll do that here for you in just a second. No, this really is, this isn't bad speed though. I live out in the middle of the wilderness. I do. I actually have power to a tree. We ran our internet. We ran our wireless cable up our driveway, and we actually have power to a tree. Like you can plug into one of our trees. It's handy.
Is that a big code, or is that a northern Idaho code?
It's northern Idaho.
Love it. That's awesome. So while this is finishing downloading or uploading, what file types do you typically recommend or talk about with your teachers when they're selecting resources to use in their courses?
Docs, PDFs, MP4. I don't know. I can't think of PowerPoint extent. Those will be a link in there. You can't embed a PowerPoint that I know of, but we just have them put in headers and directions for that. I'm trying to think. JPEGs. I'm looking over here in my resources. Some ping files.
Yeah.
I can't think of any limitations. I don't know if that's where you were getting at, but I can't think of any limitations. Michael might know.
Well, I was just thinking more, maybe not on a technical, and more on what are teachers' tendencies and what have you found them to be more familiar with and more wanting to use.
Yeah, the docs and the PDFs. But like I said, it's some of that, even the saving part is a learning curve for some of them. So I just make sure I go real slowly, and we do a lot of repetition and make sure that they know how to do that. And I often will get phone calls and say, now how are we supposed to do that? So
the teachers are basically building at this level. They're not using soft chalk or any of the other tools. They're working directly in the system like this.
They're working directly in the system. I have one teacher I work with with the soft chalk, and he doesn't have a license for that, but we just went in and did a text template so that he can kind of build something similar to that. But no, that's one teacher out of 600 that we've trained or something like that. So okay, so the header strategy and the process, I take them to the sample module, the example module, and we open up the header templates. And again, these come with all of the templates that we give them. And so I have them open them up in the edit view. We copy them, and they can either, if they have a Mac, or they can either do the shortcut, or they can right click, and we click cancel because it's a template. And then I take them down to their module. Take them down to their module, and I walk them through this very slowly. We click on editable content and paste it in there. And we talk a little bit about this and not changing those $signs, and I just explain to them what that function is and how that goes and searches in Brain Honey, so we don't mess with this. I do show them how to change the icon, and they can type in their introduction, their directions, how to complete the assignment, and then they click done, and then they can preview it, and they can see how much nicer that header looks than having just a blank screen or a white screen or just a link. So we spend some time on that, and I put that up there so that they can see the difference between just having a link up there and having a header with directions. Okay, so on the headers, as we're developing content, one thing that I do, and I don't think Nikki does it, but one thing I do is they get to building and they forget to add their headers. So as they're building their assignments, they always click on that because that's their natural instinct. They want to start building, and so I always tell them to just type in add header here, and then that reminds them to go back and do that, because I make them look at this from the student view, and any place where it says add the header here, then they go back and change that. So that is a strategy that I use to help them remember to put headers in. We spend some time in the edit mode in the text box editor, and I let them play with this a little bit, showing them how to change the font. We recommend Arial font just because it's nice and clean, but when I tell them that I'm going to evaluate this for credit, I want all of the font consistent throughout the course because it just looks bad. So we talk about the font family, the size, and they mess with this a little bit, the standard font features. And then we have them practice bringing in images from their computer, and I teach them a couple of different ways to embed video or to link video and media, and people can work out their own strategies for the way that works best, but they can download them or upload them to their course resources and then link them, or they can use the HTML toggle and put the source code in there and embed right in the page. And I don't know about you guys, but we have a lot of schools who have YouTube blocked, and so that's something that they talk to their tech people about to filter or to take that filter off so that they can watch video that might be blocked. So this text box editor, we let them play with those tools a little bit and show them how they link to different resources, and remind me not to click on that evergreen group. There we go. So I let them just play around with that a little bit, and then they click done. So that's the header on. We do spend some time going over the difference between these. The assignments, assessments, homework. These things are linked to the grade book, and when you open them up, and the teacher puts in their header and they put in their assignment directions and everything. And then over here, this is where you can set your gradebook settings, and you can put the student Dropbox so that it's submitted online. And there's just a lot of different options that you can and hook this to the grade book. You can do the visibility and completion. You can decide whether or not the student has to achieve a passing score on the activity before they move on, whether that just marks complete when they get a score. They can tie their objectives in here, and again, you can change the navigation where you place this. So these gradebook settings show up for those assignments and assessments, things that will be hooked to the gradebook. Editable content is not hooked to the gradebook unless you make it gradable. But editable content, folders, lessons, those things are organizers, and they're like your lecture notes and your instructions and your resources. And you can change them to gradable down here, but generally editable content, lessons, and folders are just organizational strategies. And notice over here that they're not gradebook placement, or they're not gradebook hooked unless you change it to a gradable activity. So, go ahead.
This stuff is all very understandable to us. I'm curious, structurally, I can understand teachers having trouble with sort of mechanicals here. How many of them have trouble really thinking about the structure of all this? Really, sort of, do they by and large have to build some and then see how it turns out, and that's the only way they really get into it in your experience?
Yes.
They understand the flow and structure?
Yes, and that's one reason why I started staying around after I trained, and I just opened up my computer and sat down and said, okay, start working. And then I would just ask kind of probing questions. How do you want this to look? And then once they started building and switching to this view and seeing what a student would see, then they look at it and they think, okay, well, I don't want it to display this. I want to build a quiz here, and I want to put this first. So I think that's why it's so important for somebody to be there as a follow-up, and then also encourage them to look into the PD 101 just because it has a lot of information about the structure in there. But you're right, the learning curve with the mechanical, and they're focusing so much on that they can't really look at the structure until I sit down with them and say, okay, how do you want this to look? How do you, if you were teaching this, what would you say? And then we build a document that says those instructions. And then I say, okay, now that you've taught them this, what kind of activity would you do? And they'd say, well, I usually just show them this video and then we have a quiz. And so then I pull them into the assignment, we embed a video, we design questions, and we build that. So once they start to make the connection between how I want this to look and then the fact that they can build it in Brain Honey, in most cases, you know, I can't think of something that they can't do, but once they see that connection, then I think that's where that independence starts, and then they really start to roll without me. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely, thank you.
I have another question, Teresa.
You bet.
Can you tell me what the lesson container is all about? I know the folder and the module is, but we've been speculating. I've been speculating. You know, what is the lesson container all about?
So you can put a title there, and then so if we go and we click done, then you can add content and hook that. And so then tomorrow when we go into the grade book, you can actually see that in that lesson there are going to be assignments. You can build content that goes within those lessons. So again, a lesson is kind of an umbrella organizer, but you can also hook things within a lesson so that when you open up your grade book, if you have lesson 1 and there are 3 assignments in lesson 1, those will hook together in the grade book.
Oh, can you, after you maybe create one here, can you flip to the grade book and show us what that looks like?
Let me see if I can get into, I won't have it in this, I won't have it in a grade book for me because I don't have students enrolled in this, but let me see if I can get it. No, but let me see, I'll just pull up one of my demo guys here. Hang on just a second.
All right. Okay, that's where, okay, all right.
That's the difference between that and a folder.
Got it.
Okay, let me see if Mr. Webster has one here. And Nikki built all of these, and so I didn't build any of these. Let me see if there's...
So are those tabs modules? I mean,
yes.
Those are the module, represents the module.
So like in the module, there'd be lessons embedded in with those modules at the top?
Right. I'm looking, yeah, do you see how these modules here, this module 2, module 3, that's what that looks like in the grade book. And I'll spend some time showing you this guy, but I wanted to see if I could find one that had lessons embedded in it. Let me go back and see if I can find in his geometry book here. Let's try this. Okay. You see how this has, here's lesson 1, and within lesson 1 there are 2 assignments. So this is a big organizer. You have your module, and then you have this lesson that he built, and I can go back in and show you this in the course structure. And now you have 2 assignments that are hooked to that lesson. So now if I look in the syllabus view, or the course, or the edit course view, where was that one?
Was it module 2?
Oh, I think it was this one. Now I have to go back. I want to know what fleas are doing in this. Okay, so let's go to my grade book here. Okay, so there's my lesson 1, and it's Intro to Sketch.
Model 3. Okay. Model 3 lesson 1.
Okay, there we go.
Remember how Michael was showing us how to change those headers? Yeah. Right. Syllabus versus
Okay. Do you,
whatever. Yeah.
do you see that structure now? In Module 3, you have your folder that says Assignments and Assessments, and then you have your lesson, so that's essentially a title, and then you have those 2 assignments that are hooked to that lesson. And that's...
So what would be the difference between doing the lesson binder with the 2 assignments versus just having the 2 assignments hanging there? Is it just to associate the 2 together?
I don't know if this one has information. This one has directions in it, but I don't know.
Oh.
I Yeah, I don't know what they had in mind there, but we essentially have teachers use those as direction pages or have them chunking that information with that lesson. Lots of times they'll have you know, like little lecture notes or something there. They'll have some information there, and then it will point out the next assignments that are hooked to that, and that's how they're linked in the grade book. But I don't know beyond that what they had in mind when they had this created, but
okay.
I know that when you put that into the grade book, that those 2 are linked under that one lesson. There's your assignments and assessments, so there's your folder. And so you have 2 lessons in that assignment, and you have this one is your big folder.
Yeah.
And then those 2 are your separate lessons. And within those lessons, you have 5 assignments.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, let me think here. Where am I? So we're adding resources. We talked a little bit about that and dragging in. I do have teachers, I do ask that they, for their own organizational sanity, that they add folders over here. And just so that they know when they start dragging things in, because when you start browsing your computer and this pops up, it will put the files in whichever one is highlighted. And so if the wrong one's highlighted, they have to do a lot of searching. So I do spend some time telling them to create some folders, and they can browse and click on that, click open, they upload. And now when that populates over there on the right hand side, they can go to that folder and see where that resource is. So I do take some time walking them through that because it is it's a management issue if they get too much in there and don't know where they put it. So I have them build folders, and then I have them add resources, and so they can add them either from their computer, browsing them one at a time, or they can bring them in like this and drag them in. And we don't get super technical on this. We just tell them that as long, the more they have digitized on their computer, the more they have in folders and digitized, the easier it is for them to bring those from their own computer into their course files. So they might not have to create as many things if they have more digital content, and this is where we run into some of the older teachers who don't have really good digital content, and we spend more time developing with them than other teachers who have more digitized content. So that's a learning curve for people who don't have a lot of stuff on their computers. It's still, obviously it's still doable, but it's easier if you have a lot of digitized content.
Can I bring Minesweeper? Can I bring the solitaire cards? Yeah. Okay.
You know what? I'm sure we can link it here. We go up here, and
What I want to know is how many teachers create their own animated GIFs?
very few. Very few. I was gonna say too, when we send teachers out to to websites. Oops, hang on, I didn't mean to do that. That I do teach this, that we can send them out to a file or a website, and so this is always my favorite here because I know that it always works. And so I ask them if they have, favorite websites, favorite news things, RSS feeds, podcasts, and you can add those. And I just show them the variety that they can get by clicking on all of those different things that they can add, and then just trying some of them out. So they'll send their kids out to a website, and then they'll have a set of questions, and so we go through as they build their content. If I were having you build content today, we'd be trying out each of these things so that they can see how that displays on their page, and that's my favorite website ever.
Are you athlete?
I am.
Wow.
For fun stuff. Okay.
Is there a part of the triathlon that still involves sawing down a tree, delimbing it, and then doing log rolling?
I thought you were going to say drinking beer. I thought for sure you were going to say drinking beer. Okay, smarty pants. No, it's swimming, biking, and running. There are logger events in which I've never participated, but no. Who said that? I want to write you. You should have identified yourself. No, I don't saw down trees. Just the swim, bike, and the run. Okay. So on the more, I don't know if you've ever seen this, if you've played around in here, but you can add the RSS feed. You can develop wikis. I have teachers build a survey to ask their students at the end what they thought of the course, and it's really good feedback for them. And so they click on the survey, and I usually use SurveyMonkey or something like that, but they build their survey. And over here on the right hand side, where again those grade book settings that have all of these options, you can, I usually, like I said, click to SurveyMonkey, but they can use Zoomerang. That's another one they use a lot. But they click that link and they put that right into their course, and then the students answer those questions, and it gives the teacher really good feedback on how the course went and what. Oops. Oh yes, I want to cancel. We put a survey into our Blended Learning 101, and we usually have them fill it out at the end of a training, and so answers from those surveys help drive our instruction as well. So that survey tool is handy to have in there, and teachers are starting to use that a little bit more. Blogs and journals. I've never used this one, the Common Cartridge or the Score Impact. I've never used that, and I've never had a teacher ask to use it, but I have had them build journals and blogs and wikis, and so that, I think that's robust. I think that this content that you can put in there, I think that you can make that so engaging and interactive. I just think there's a lot of opportunity in there for that.
I have a question about the survey. So with all the different survey tools that were provided Does that mean that I have to read my survey in SurveyMonkey and then attach it?
Yes.
Okay.
I usually just put the directions here. I put the header in there, or the title, and then the header, and then the directions. Please fill out this survey so that I can better serve you as a student, and then put my survey link in there. And they click on that link, and it takes them out to SurveyMonkey.
Okay.
Okay.
Have you had any teachers or school systems expressing concern that they're building something inside Brain Honey and they feel like there's so much that's embedded in the particular environment that they are locked in forever to Brain Honey and they wish they were in some more general purpose environment?
We've had teachers say they don't want to just use one LMS. So I guess in answer to your question, yes. Not necessarily objecting to Brain Honey itself, although some people just, they just say that it's too hard. It's just, they just won't do it because they're not technologically adept. But those same people will also say they won't use any LMS. They just don't want to do it. It's too overwhelming for them. But yeah, we have had some teachers just say they don't want to limit themselves to one LMS. I try to explain to teachers that if you have a bunch of digitized content, that content is still yours. And even though they're putting it into an LMS, they're just making copies of it to put into the LMS. They're not giving their stuff away. Yes, it's their time, obviously. It's heavy front end loading for the time to develop content, but they still have all those resources and they still have all those ideas. Chances are they have their test pools, their questions. So I guess it just comes down to a personal preference. If they didn't want to limit themselves, then they probably wouldn't use blended. I don't know how you could. I don't know if you could have 2 or 3 different LMSs, because that kind of, you could do it and have kind of a piecemeal program, but we really focus on, in our strategic planning, in building a school-wide blended program so that everybody is using a similar LMS and the kids have that consistency and courses are developed similarly. And it doesn't always work that way, but
it was one of the things that prompted the soft chalk question. There are other aspects of how the courses are done that might make it easier. But in general, I was curious because I was just curious how much teachers think about that. Like when I go and choose a piece of software that's a database or image files or something like that, I always think, well, if I get tired of the software, can I export and go to some other environment? But apparently you're not getting that question very much from teachers.
I think that it's new enough in our area, to tell you the truth, that they don't think about it. I think some of our teachers who are in the 3rd year of the program, I think it's a question that they would ask more so, but I still get questions, I'll be partway through a training and I'll still get questions about what blended learning is. So, and I have a lot of superintendents and principals who I think they like the idea of blending because they've heard it a lot in terms of a buzzword, or they've read it, but still haven't wrapped their heads around what it means to blend and to blend well. And now we're moving into the university level, and it just said that my connection is down. Can you not see my screen anymore?
No, we saw the same message, but we don't see your screen.
And now we're moving into the university level where they're just starting to grasp that concept. And even though they have blended courses, just because they're blending a course doesn't mean that professor has the pedagogical piece and knows how to do that. So the whole LMS, that whole LMS question of what do I do with this? I mean, that's an awesome question, but I don't get it a lot. I can't speak for Nikki down south, but I don't get it. I don't get that question a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
And you have to tell them, it's once it's in this, in our districts, if you've developed this on district time, then that's district property, and that gets a little sticky sometimes, and teachers don't want to do that, and they don't want to give up their research. They don't want to share their resources. So sometimes this idea of this repository and share alike, sometimes it just doesn't work.
Have any of your schools had a different LMS they adopted, like Moodle or something, an open source one like that?
Yeah. So
and
far,
do they have a problem going to a different one?
No. I don't know. I know that one school district switched because just nobody used it, and so they thought, well, we'll try something what they considered easier, I guess. And they're using Schoology. It looks like Schoolology, but it's pronounced Schoology. And I'm not familiar with it. I know that we have a couple of teachers using Canvas, and I went in there and kind of experimented with that. But everything that I've been in that was a free LMS just doesn't do what Brain Honey does. And tomorrow when we talk about differentiation and yeah, there are real simple ones to use, and I think that it's a you get what you pay for sort of thing. Moodle, I know that we've had some people in Moodle, and even though Edmodo isn't isn't considered an LMS, we have people doing some collaboration in Edmodo. Blackboard, we do have several schools in our blended consortium who are using Blackboard, and for what reason, I don't know. I don't know if that's what they already had in their school district, but my understanding is that it's harder to build content, or a little bit trickier to build content in Blackboard than it is in Brain Honey. I've never built in Blackboard, just Brain Honey, so I can't think of any other. Canvas, Moodle, and you can export from Moodle into Brain Honey, but yeah, I don't know any other ones right off the top of my head. Is there one in your area that's prolific? I mean, is there one in your area that?
There's quite a few Moodle installations and a moderate number of Blackboard installations, and very little of anything else like Desire to Learn and so on. And I think it's really more along the lines of schools being sensitive about who owns the content, and can we just pick it up and go someplace else? Can we pick up our marbles and
right.
move if later on they don't like it?
Right.
And some of that is completely understandable, and some of it is prudence, but some of it is just an intellectual question. I'm just curious how much it showed up for you folks.
And my guess too is that Nikki would have a different answer, just because it's more concentrated down south. They had a year head start down there. I didn't come on in this blended position until June of last year, and so except for a couple of general presentations up here, there wasn't anybody in this part of the state to support nor promote the blended. So I'm thinking that in my short stint up here, that I might not have gotten that question as often as Nikki may have gotten it down south. So she might have a different perspective, and it might be worth emailing her and asking. Okay, so do you guys have access to our LOR?
We do now, yes.
Okay, So in the resources, we've been dealing with the course files primarily. In the resources on the search, if I type in, because I taught English for 100 years, well, almost, and I click on the iDig Learning Object Repository, you'll see some other things there, but it's because I have subscriptions, because I'm doing some content development and I have subscriptions to other courses. But generally, you would be searching the Learning Object Repository. So if I type in a keyword for punctuation and I click search, this is going to bring up any pieces of standalone content, any learning objects having to do with punctuation. Now, I showed you earlier that page that had all those courses, and I said now we have chunks of these courses. This is what I meant by that. We have standalone learning objects that are movable. And so I'm going to preview this, and these can be games, they can be manipulatives, you know, gizmo type things, not licensed gizmos, but gizmo type things. They can be narrated PowerPoints. I'm trying to think what else is in there. So this happens to be this little piece on, yeah, from Articulate. So I'm going to pretend that I absolutely love that, and that's what I want. So I drag this in to my course, and let's say I want it up here underneath my lesson. Now when I click on this, when I click on the arrow next to that, maybe, I might need to refresh. So there's my interactive. And from a student view, when I click on that, it shows how a student would see that display on their page. So those learning objects have been hugely popular as teachers build content. A couple of the drawbacks that you'll figure out is that you have to, there's no really way to filter them. There's no real way to filter them. You type in punctuation and you're going to get everything that we have in there. And so it takes teachers some time to go through there and see which things they like and which things they don't like. It's just one of those, and I tell them that. I tell them that, you know, that this part of the thinking and your decision making, this part is going to take some time. But once you have this course in the framework and you roll it out with blended, then you have you just have such a you just have a much easier time in your course, just because you can get the computer to do a lot of your little menial tasks for you. So this one happens to be a pyramid game. But so this keyword, sometimes you might have to do some searching, like if you type in cell and it doesn't like the word cell, then you might have to type in cell wall, or you might have to type in just different iterations of the word or different words associated with it in order to get the search. It's not, I just tell teachers it's not like a Google search. So then you have to go through here and review. In this case, it shows you that we have 5 pages of punctuation interactives. And I'm going to show you right quick, I'm going to click back to my PD 101 because I'll show you where this is embedded in the PD 101. Let's go back to Bonneville where I tried to ruin their course copy. So if I click in this, I click on the view and I go down to resources. This interactivity template, this will take teachers to the actual site.
Interaction, samples and templates.
They can
Click
go through
on the
here.
navigation menu to the left.
They can go through here and they can search, and let's pick learning games. And can you see the gray square in the upper left corner that says, okay, so that's a template. Let's pretend that they really want to build their own interactive. They can open up that template and they fill out all the information for this. It tells what standards are addressed by this. They answer all of these questions. And so they're building, they're giving this information to IDLA. They send it to IDLA. I think there's an email at the bottom. Oh no, it's on the direction page. So they save that to their computer, they send it to IDLA, and IDLA will build this with their information and then put it in their course for them. So that's how our interactive samples and templates page works, and it's embedded in that PD101, so they always have access to that. So I'm not sure if you knew about that feature in there, but those interactives and those little pieces that teachers can build or have IDLA build for them, it takes about 2 weeks, and but that's what that is in their PD101 course.
As you were scrolling through that, I saw some Category 1 tags or items in Category 2 and so on. What are those?
Tell me what you're seeing here. Tell me where that was.
That was
Interaction, samples, and templates. Click on the navigation menu to the left.
Oh. Okay, let me pick one.
I saw tags and so on, and then a little bit later there was a section of Category 1, Category 2 with several boxes to be filled in.
Okay, so the categories would be associated with that game, like in Jeopardy. A category would be authors, or
okay,
state.
So that was specific to that game.
Yes, very specific to.
Okay.
All of these would be different.
All right. And up above that, the tags are tags updatable all along the way, and who can update them?
IDLA does all this building, so IDLA would have to do it. The teacher isn't building this; they're just passing this template with information onto IDLA. So our content developers have to change all that.
Okay. And so, you know how much IDLA has talked about some kind of rating or vetting system, or any way that this question that you appropriately posed about sorting out which is sort of known good stuff, and then there's other stuff that you've got trying to explore, etc.
All of our interactives are the ones that we have built and put in there. Not these templates necessarily, but the ones that I showed you. Those are vetted and tied to standards. And so IDLA, our content developers, do that as they go. We don't, as far as I know, we don't have a process for doing that for a school district. We just, it's done in our own, it's done in our domain for our teachers and for anybody who uses our stuff. But when I do strategic planning with a district, I tell them that they have to do that for their own. They're in charge of their own vetting, their own decisions. We don't make that. Anything we provide for them, we've vetted, but anything they build, we don't vet.
How much are the districts, in your experience, sharing beyond their own school?
It's getting more common. Last night, for example, I met with a teacher online for about 3 hours, and she's up here north of me a little ways. And I copied 3 courses for her into her domain, and she's taking pieces of those and building another course. I think that the copying has picked up in the last 6 or 8 months a lot more than was happening, in the first year and a half of the program. I think it will continue to grow because we have teachers now who are starting to put things into the consortium. They're starting to share back to the consortium. When I started this job last June, there were 5 courses in there, and now I think we're up to 30 or 27 or something like that, and we're moving 41 new courses in between now and January. I think the copying is picking up, and I think it's going to get more common. I don't have a number. I can get one.
Sure.
You know, I can mine
Yeah.
I can mine the data, or I can mine for that data, but I don't have that number handy.
No, I was interested mostly in the impression. That's fine.
By the same token, you know, I've had teachers say, no, I'm not going to share it because this is my stuff. I have an awesome music appreciation course that I just can't. I've begged this teacher to share it because it is so amazing, and she said, I just don't want it out there. And okay, well, you know, and I don't pressure them, but I just really, it would be a great resource for every teacher in the state to have access to that, but that's up to her. Okay.
I see we're close to 5 o'clock here.
Yep. And you know, that's the very last thing, except the one thing that I didn't show you was how to align the objectives with that content, but we can start with that tomorrow. That's no problem at all.
Great.
That was the last thing that I would have needed to show you today. Okay, so for tomorrow, I want to find out, drill down for people who import CSV. Is there any other question that I need to do for follow-up that I couldn't answer?
No. Other than Jamie, is there anybody else new joining us?
We may come up with some other questions. Maybe primarily. So you'll be doing more grade group things tomorrow, I assume?
Yes. So we'll go in and I'll show you the grading categories, the grouping structure, the calendar, the course settings. So yeah.
All right, cool. All right.
Okay.
And you know what? If there may be, will you be doing that tomorrow, Greg? So you know what I'll do, Teresa? Since like some of us will be here physically and some of us will not. So why don't I plan on sending you a dialing number tomorrow,
Okay.
if that's okay?
Sure.
And then we'll use that to hook up, and then yeah, and I'll make sure everybody else has the same dialing number.
That sounds good. And what's our time? What time tomorrow?
Tomorrow is 2:30 our time.
So 11:30.
11, yeah.
11:30 my time.
Okay.
I'm traveling to Portland, Oregon for a family reunion, and so I was supposed to be off tomorrow, and I just told them that I would adjust my travel schedule, but I do want to make sure I'm somewhere where I have the internet at 11:30 tomorrow. So I love my portable job. Okay, well, you guys have a good evening, and I will see you tomorrow. And if you think of any questions, just holler.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right,
Teresa.
you betcha.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.